The alarm on my console screamed, before I even understood what it was screaming about. My name is Vex. I am a sensor officer on a border watch station, and in 9 years of service, I had never once heard that particular alarm. It was not the tone for an unknown ship. It was not the tone for a threat. It was a tone I did not know existed, because our systems had never needed it before. A single vessel had dropped out of transit space less than 1 minute away from our station. No warning, no signal. No entry in any registry across 14 known civilizations. I stared at the screen and felt my hands go cold. I ran the scan again, certain I had made an error. The result came back the same. Hull composition, unknown. Engine signature, unknown. Every category our database had built over 900 years of contact with other worlds returned one single word, over and over, blinking at me like it was mocking me. Impossible. I called my supervisor, a calm woman named Priya, who had seen every kind of ship cross this sector. She looked at my screen, went quiet, and then called someone above her. Within minutes, 4 different officers from 4 different worlds were standing behind my chair, all staring at the same blank field where a name should have been. "Run it again," Priya said. I did. Nothing changed. The ship sat there in open space, silent, massive, and completely unreadable to every instrument we owned. "Life signs," said a voice behind me. It belonged to a thin, sharp-eyed officer named Callum, who worked in threat analysis and rarely spoke unless something scared him. I ran the scan he asked for, and my throat went dry. 340 life signs, all from a species our database had never recorded. Their heart rates, their breathing, everything about them read as calm. Too calm, like walking through open space toward the unknown, was something they did every day without a second thought. "Open a channel," Priya said. Her voice had lost its calm now. I opened it. Static hissed for a moment, and then a voice came through, easy and unbothered, like a man answering a call he had expected all along. "This is Daniel Ashford, captain of the cruiser Ember Wake. Sorry about the noise. Our systems ran a little rough on the jump. Everything all right over there? You've been scanning us for a while." I looked at Priya. She looked at me. Neither of us knew how to answer a voice that sounded so ordinary, while sitting inside something our instruments refused to understand. "Captain Ashford," Priya said carefully, "your vessel does not match any classification in our records. Can you confirm your ship's designation and purpose?" There was a pause, then a short laugh, warm and confused. "Purpose. We're a supply cruiser. We're hauling equipment out to a research outpost 2 systems over." "Why? Did we cross into somewhere we shouldn't have?" "A supply cruiser." I looked back at my screen, at 400 distinct energy readings glowing across the ship's hull, readings our systems could not even name, only flag as unknown and possibly dangerous. A supply run. That was what he called it. Priya requested permission to send an inspection team. Ashford agreed immediately, without hesitation, the way someone agrees to let a neighbor borrow a tool. I asked to go myself. I needed to see this ship with my own eyes, because I no longer trusted anything my console was telling me. 4 of us crossed over in a small transport craft. My hands did not stop shaking the entire way. The inside of the Ember Wake was nothing like I expected. No grand halls, no glowing displays meant to intimidate visitors. Just narrow corridors, scuffed metal floors, and the quiet hum of machinery working exactly as it should. A young woman named Nora walked past us carrying a crate of tools, gave us a polite nod, and kept walking, like finding 4 strangers from another world aboard her ship was simply another Tuesday. Every few steps, our engineer, a nervous man named Torin, stopped to stare at something bolted to the walls. Cooling systems that should not have been stable at their temperature, power conduits humming, with far more energy than any cargo ship should ever need. He kept whispering the same words under his breath. "This is a supply ship. This is what they build for supplies." We reached the bridge, where Ashford greeted us with a cup of something warm he called coffee, and offered it without any ceremony, as if we were old friends stopping by. He was younger than I expected, relaxed, almost bored by the attention we were giving him. "So," he said, leaning back in his chair, "what exactly has your team so worried? You've got drones circling us like we're about to start something." I did not know how to answer him honestly. Because you built something ordinary out of what should be impossible. Because your species treats immense power as background noise. Because I have run this scan through every system we own, and every single one is failing quietly in front of me. Instead, I asked him a simple question. How many ships like this did his people have? He shrugged, sipping his drink like the question barely mattered. Couldn't tell you an exact number. A lot. This one isn't even special, honestly. It's one of the smaller ones we use for these routine runs. You should see what we send out for actual difficult jobs. Behind me, Callum made a small sound, like something inside him had just quietly given up trying to make sense of the world. We spent 2 hours aboard that ship, and every hour only deepened the confusion. The crew moved with an ease that suggested none of this felt remarkable to them. A woman named Ellen showed us storage bays filled with containers, labeled things like grain, tools, and spare parts, mixed among components our engineers could not identify, even after staring at them for several minutes. A young man named Peter walked us past a room glowing faintly with energy readings that made our instruments restart twice, and he barely glanced at it, more interested in finishing the sandwich in his other hand. By the time we returned to our station, my mind felt like it had been stretched too far in too many directions at once. I sat at my console, staring at the same blank field from hours earlier, hull composition, unknown, and for the first time in my career, I understood that unknown did not mean broken. It meant something far larger than we were prepared to face. Priya called an emergency meeting that night. Officers from every allied world crowded into the briefing room, all reviewing the same data, all arriving at the same unsettling silence. No one raised their voice. No one suggested action. Everyone simply stared at the numbers, trying to understand a species that treated staggering power as something so casual it barely registered notice. I remember Callum finally breaking the silence, his voice quiet but steady. If that is what they consider ordinary, what happens the day they decide something is not ordinary? No one answered him. No one could. 3 days later, our council issued a formal message to the humans, one built with careful diplomacy and even more careful wording. It did not demand explanations. It did not request restrictions. It simply asked, politely, that future vessels traveling through monitored space provide clearer identification before entering our sensor range. Ashford's reply came within the hour, casual as ever, almost amused by the request. He apologized for the confusion, promised to update his ship's beacon settings, and added, almost as an afterthought, that he hoped the mix-up hadn't caused too much trouble on our end. I read that message more times than I would like to admit. Trouble. As if 340 unreadable life signs and a hull that broke 900 years of scientific record was simply a minor inconvenience to sort out over a cup of coffee. That night, I sat alone at my station, long after my shift ended, staring at the saved copy of my very first scan. The blinking word still sat there in the corner of the screen, stubborn and unmoving. Impossible. I used to think that word meant something had gone wrong with our instruments. Now I understood it differently. It was not an error. It was a description. It was the only word our systems had ever needed to explain an entire species, one that built astonishing things and called them routine, one that walked into the unknown without fear, because, to them, the unknown simply was not that frightening. I do not know what will happen the next time a human ship drifts into our monitored space. Maybe it will be another quiet cargo run, another calm voice offering coffee and casual explanations, or maybe, one day, it will be something they no longer consider ordinary, and every alarm across our systems will scream at once, the same way mine did on that very first night. Until then, all I have is that single scan, still open on my screen, still refusing to give me an answer that makes sense. Hull composition, unknown. I have stopped trying to correct it. I think, somehow, it was right all along.